What's up, dudes and dudettes? My name is Ezekiel, and welcome back to my review series of the Pepperoni Pie anime. I've got my notes as usual. So we're going to be discussing episode 2 of season 1, but what was I gonna say? I didn't make notes for what I was going to say before my review, just during. Maybe I should do that as well. So, before we begin the review, a couple quick announcements. First of all, Season 3 was supposed to drop soon, but the release date's been pushed back to, December because of some unfortunate changes with many different things. So we're still recording it, but it should be out around December, mid-December. So, but before they just said summer, at least now you have a better release date schedule. What else was there in announcements? Right. My buddy Nate, who voices Pi in the anime, recently did a reaction to my review, my last video. What was I gonna say? Oh, right. In his review, he mentioned that he was trying to collaborate with me on one of these reviews so we could talk about it together. And though he won't be in this episode, I would love to get him on to talk about one of the episodes. So, episode 3 for sure. Look forward to me and the voice actor for Pi talking about episode 3 together. And episode 3 was a pretty good one. So, and then the final announcement is, on my last video, I made a few points about the episode. I mean, I guess that's what you do in a review, but, I made some points, and in the comments, user Tree Rat the Fish pointed out that while he agreed with most of my points, he disagreed with my point that there should have been more action in the first episode, as he says that it gives us a better chance to see the characters' interactions and character traits without having to use their astral beasts. Which, after that was said, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, thank you, Tree Rat. That was very helpful. I still would have liked to see some action, but I understand that that episode didn't need it. So, I mean, fair enough, you know? But now we'll finally get on to my points on episode 2 of the Pepperoni Pie anime. So, the first thing I have written down is they went further into detail into how the astral beasts work in the second episode of season 1. First episode, they just say that everyone's got one, that people need to find out what their astral beast is, then summon it, then tame it. In this episode, they go further into detail about it. something in let's see, what happened in episode 2? Right. So they went further into detail about the Astro Beasts, saying that there are 2 types after they're summoned. So technically there's 3. There's unsummoned, which are beasts that haven't been summoned by anyone. There's tamed beasts, which are beasts that are summoned and then trained to obey a master and to fight. And then there's shadow beasts. And the thing behind shadow beasts it's kind of like tamed, but not really. They're usually used by villains, and shadow beasts are when someone forms a dark contract with an astral beast. You say that you're going to do something for the astral beast, and they grant you their power and obey your will. It is a darker version of taming, and can sometimes lead to you being killed by the astral beast if you do not fulfill your end of the bargain. So, we learn more about those. We also learn more about Isaac's beast. His quote-unquote beast. So, we learn that, they drop the name of his beast in this episode. We did not know it before. We just knew it was a very powerful one. A beast of legend, in fact. In fact, said to be the most powerful one. And that brings us to the name. The name, Kyumna, was... For this, we actually have to look at the original Japanese of the show. In the original Japanese, they took 2 words and sort of fused them together, but the words separately mean ultimate beast. And they fused it to Kyumna for shortening it, and that is that is the name of Isaac's beast. His astral beast is the Kyumno, as it is the actual ultimate beast. Fitting, I know. However, because he was unable to summon it, people don't believe that it's his beast, and that's the running joke, as I explained last episode. So, in this episode, they talked more about his beast. Isaac was like, yeah, yo, Pi, we gotta find out how to figure out what your beast is. I know how to do it, because we know my beast is the Kyumno. Yeah. Oh, man. But they did try to figure out what beast he had. But they were interrupted by the villain. And that brings me to my next point, which is the villain's entrance. This is the first appearance of the villain for this season. And it was a pretty cool entrance. Like, the music, it was pretty well built up to throughout the whole episode. It was the soundtrack to it was good. Like, everyone associates the song that was played there with the villain, even though he has another theme that's played, and this song was only played this one time, because this song was just better. Everyone has been like, this is his theme. Why am I getting notifications for things? Sorry for the the unprofessional stuff here. I do kind of want to keep these unedited. The last one was, and this one is also going to be an unedited video. And I kind of want to keep them unedited because sometimes when I ramble, like I do right now, I come up with good points that I didn't think of before. And I have the notes to kind of keep me on track a little, but if I'm gonna use these if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it unedited so that even if I go off track a little, I still get the gist of things. But yeah, the villain, right? They don't name drop him. They don't drop his name till episode 3. He just sort of appears. He doesn't say who he is, but he appears with a really cool shadow beast. And that was why I mentioned that they talked about Shadow Beast before. They talked about Shadow Beast so that they could introduce the fact that he has a Shadow Beast. It's a really cool beast too. If you've seen the episode, you know, like it's a darker version of a very common Astro Beast. Like it's one of the most, like, it's usually one of the most common Astro Beasts. Everyone has this Astro Beast. Like, if you're like not, you know, it's just one of those ones that everyone has. You see them everywhere. But Shadow Beasts, due to their dark nature and the contract, they're infused with a bit more power. And they look cooler, basically. So he has a very common Astro Beast, which is just like it's basically a dog. Like, everyone has that one. Pretty much just a dog. But his has, like, extra legs, and it's bigger, and it's completely black with shadowy red eyes, and it's just really cool looking. And they animated it pretty well. And he comes in, he says what he wants. Which his plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense once you think about it with the things that have, with the very few things that have happened before this, and with the things that happen afterwards. They did do that on purpose, and I know that kind of seems like a spoiler, like, oh, you find out why his plan seemed weird in episode 14, which, I mean, you do, but it seems weird, well, maybe not episode 14. I don't want to tell you what episode you find it out in if you haven't watched the show, but you can tell his plan doesn't quite make sense now. Like, they set it up so that you can be like, why is he doing this? And then through more episodes, you're still like, why is he doing this? And then they leave clues as to why the villain is doing what he's doing, why his plan doesn't quite make sense. And it's just really well done. And this episode was definitely better than the last one because of all that. The dialogue was still sort of choppy. especially on my end. I'm so stupid. At least we did well voice acting. Nate even said in the last video, or in his review of my review, that his voice acting wasn't the best in episode 1. And that's why it was kind of boring. And yeah, I mean, he wasn't the best, but he was just figuring out how to do things. And he sat in the room while we were recording other stuff, and he listened in, and he figured out what he was supposed to do, and he kind of got a little better this episode. Nate's doing better at voice acting. He definitely got good, but like we all got in a role by season 2, and season 3 is gonna have some amazing voice acting in it. Like sitting there in the recording booth is amazing. But yeah, all of that happened. Everything was well voice acted, well animated. Villain came in, and then they left it off on a cliffhanger for the fight. Because the first fight's not till episode 3, next episode. They left it off on a massive cliffhanger. Just before the fight. The villain was telling his plan, and then he was saying, Pi was saying how he was going to stop him. And then the villain was like, then bring it. And they started going at each other, and then the outro kicked in, and I was like, oh my gosh. The cliffhanger was a little upsetting, but like in a good way, where wanted you to watch. You wanted to watch more. You wanted to see what happened, but you had to wait till the next week, unless you were binging it after it came out. But yeah, those are my points for episode 2. I think that's all I've written down, unless I can think of anything else. What else was there that happened in episode 2? I didn't write anything down, so might not have been that important, but then I might have also missed a detail. If you can think of anything else that happened in episode 2 that I missed, because I mean there was some minor stuff I didn't write down just because it was more of like, I mean, I guess there was them trying to figure out Pi's Astro Beast, because they almost got it, and then the villain came in, and they, you know, it went to a dialogue between them, and I mean, the dialogue wasn't that good, because they were still trying to figure things out, but it was better than the first episode. I feel like they wrote lines for, like, bad guys in really important scenes first, and then they're like, oh yeah, we need to write more dialogue for, like, other things, and it was just not that good. But yeah, I apologize for being a bit more of a rambling mess. If there's anything you think I missed that I should have covered, let me know in the comments. And especially let me know in the comments if you have anything that I pointed out that I liked or did not like that you disagree with, as long as it's in a positive manner. Because Tree Rat's comment was really good, and though I personally would have liked more action, yeah, the first episode didn't need it. It just set things up better, so I guess at this point we just move on to the part where I talk about whether or not the episode was that good. It was better than 1, I think. It was better than the first one. Dialogue was still crappy. But they were starting to figure out what they were supposed to do. We did record and write some of the scenes in a out of order. So some of the things that you're seeing now were written before episode 1. So we didn't so that's why it was so they spent a little more energy into it than some of the stuff in episode 1. And then some of the other things were written after episode 1. So, that's the filmmaking process. But the animation was a bit better, especially in the scene with the villain. That one was, that was recorded first. That was animated later. So they were figuring out how to animate things better. So it was just all around a better scene to watch. Maybe not to listen to. It was still better than the first episode, but some of the dialogue was not the best. I think the cliffhanger was good. It upset a lot of people because people were like, "Oh man, there was gonna be a fight. Now there's not a fight." But I mean, it set it up well for episode 3 when the fight does happen, and that's a good fight. But I'll get into that next week with Nate. Because we're gonna record the episode together. We have to. I want to see what some of his thoughts are on this as well. I loved working on this show, even throughout the crappy dialogue readings. In season 2, it was just fun to mess with the dialogue and ad-lib it, and a lot of that didn't make it in, and also a bunch of it did. I did a lot of ad-libs. But yeah. The episode was okay. It was better than the first episode, and it was pretty enjoyable, actually. I mean, the first episode got you into a couple of characters. Terrence was good. He was a good, casual antagonist. The lobster salesman, obviously came in this episode, and he's a fan favorite. Everybody loves the lobster salesman. And his voice actor is a fantastic guy. Man, it's just recording scenes with him was fun. Because not only would I ad-lib in season 2, but in scenes with the lobster salesman, he'd ad-lib as well, and we just have these crazy conversations that had nothing to do with the story. In character. And it's just so fun. He's a very funny guy. I love him. But that's, yeah. It was a pretty good episode. It was above average, at least. Some things they could have done better. It was a little exposition-y. I feel like they could have found a way to tell... I feel like they could have found a way to talk about the Astro Beasts more naturally than having it feel like they were just telling the viewer. Because it kind of felt like they were telling the viewer about things rather than just making it seem like it would actually fit into a conversation. It just felt a little out of place in the conversation. Like it was only there so that you could understand the deal behind Astro Beasts. Other than that, I think it was pretty good. That villain Astro Beast was amazing and very well animated, and you can tell it was animated alongside some of the later scenes. Because it was just very good. But yeah, if I missed anything, or if you think there's something with this episode that you disagree with me on, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'll respond to it either in a comment if I can find a short enough response, or I'll respond to it in the beginning of the next episode with Nate. So, yeah. With that being it, I will see you guys in the next video. Sorry for this being a longer one.